sant yàlla.
looy xaar utal Wave nga scan nga fay te nag doo ci yokku dara.
Jar Oil, the company, have filling stations across the country, and our rates are relatively cheaper than anyone else across the country. Jar Oil is the biggest producer and distributor of cement in the country with the most competitive prices in the market.
In the Gambia, we all move to different paces. Time is money, convenience is power, and now both are in your hands. No more long lines, no more late payments, no more missed chances. Not anymore. Because now the Gambia has its own super app, Zap. One app, one tap, endless convenience. Send money instantly, pay your bills in seconds, shop without borders, pay your rides, order your meal, buy your ticket, deposit and withdraw money for absolutely free. No extra charges, no hidden fees, only on Zap Super app. This is not just convenience. This is confidence. This is the future in your hands. And the best part, Zap is born right here. Built for us, designed for every Gambian home, every Gambian dream. So don't wait in the past. Step into the future. Download Zap today on App Store and Play Store and enjoy endless free services. Call us today on our toll-free number 1666 or on 260-0001. Zap, all in one, all for you. Tap in, zap in.
On Monday, the 15th of December 2025, you're with Coffee Time with Peter Gomez live on FM across the country on 92.1 megahertz and around the globe at www.wcr.gm. Thank you very much if you're following us live. We are with Dr. Ousman Gagigo, well-known economist and commentator on the Gambian economy. So we have identified the problems. Let's offer solutions, because very often that is the criticism you hear. Oh, they come to Coffee Time, they go to other platforms, all they do is criticize, but offer no solutions.
Yes.
What reforms would you propose? We'll come to your political ambitions later to ensure sustainable, a sustainable economy, especially in, your standout areas, cement supply, energy supply.
So you want me to focus on, so the thing with cement is, as I've pointed out, unlike what the government would say, we don't have cement manufacturing in the Gambia. So we can only...
Salam doesn't do that.
No, they do what is, Salam does, in fact, a tiny bit of, they import clinker, what is called clinker, and then you do some final processing. Clinker is easier to transport, and then you can do some final, but 90% of the manufacturing is done outside. One way you can tell by this is that the energy used in cement manufacturing, 90% is done by the time you reach clinker. So a cement factory would be a facility where you have, because the main ingredient is limestone. You have to mine that from the ground, break it down. It goes through a very extensive process. In fact, the interesting thing about a cement factory is it's one of those things where the factory, the processing plant, has to be located very close to the quarry. If you were to have the limestone quarry in Basse, you cannot put the factory here in Combo.
Oh, okay.
You cannot, because limestone is a high volume, low value product. If you transport it over long distance, the cost of transportation will exceed the value of what you are transporting. So it makes no sense. You'll basically be burning all your profit on the fuel.
Getting it from one point to another.
Yes, because you need a huge amount of limestone to have a small quantity of cement, which is why factories, I've been involved in cement projects. When I was at ADB, I was a project officer on a cement plant in Congo.
No wonder your attachment to this issue.
So I'm very familiar. I've also been in a project where ADB gave a loan to Dangote to finance multiple cement plants across Africa.
The biggest cement producer.
Yes.
Across the
so
continent.
The idea, and I remember I've been in the office of Modke Cisse, who recently has been appointed Industry and Trade, which by the way is quite it's quite interesting because when this problem started in 2018 and 19, when I first started writing about this main project, he was permanent secretary. I remember going to his office.
Permanent secretary where?
At the Ministry of Industry and Trade.
Okay.
At the time. I remember going to him and he was quite certain that, yes, we have cement factories in the Gambia. And I told him, did you actually visit the cement factory? He did not. I told him, well, you should go out and find out what a cement factory looks like so that if you go to the cement bagging plant of jar oil, you can see the difference between a cement factory, which is something you have close to the Senegalese airport in Jas, versus a cement bagging. So the thing is that a cement manufacturing would be great if we have it, but we don't have it. So every company that we have in the Gambia, Gasem, Salam, Jar Oil, they do bagging. Salam Oil does slightly bit of, you can say, value addition because they are able to import clinker, and in here they are able to do the final processing. So as if you are an official in the Gambia government, what you need, cement is very important. It's the most important ingredient for infrastructure, whether houses or even road construction. This is something you cannot import. You cannot produce locally. You need to import it. Your goal should be to ensure that there's accessibility, there's affordability, and the supply is not restricted, which means that you need competition in that sector. It cannot be concentrated in one supplier. So this is what we had before. So to have a situation where you put a punitive import duty to such an extent that it drives out all small-scale importers and you are left with only 3, you create a problem that is easily predictable. You have a situation, even if those 3 are able to meet the market, you create the condition for collusion later for them to artificially raise the price. But even if there is no collusion, your own agency, your competitive commission, already did a study to say that those 3 do not have the capacity to meet the local demand. And if you go ahead and do that, what is going to happen? You're going to create excess demand, oversupply, which is shortage. And when there's a shortage, the price will shoot up. Essential construction projects that need to happen will be stalled or cancelled. People who had budget to build a house now will no longer be able to do it. Last week, cement price reached up to 600. Before this crisis started, cement prices used to be it used to be around 3 something. In Farafenni, it used to be around 235.
That was when Jar Oil was able to bring its cement, from offshore to onshore. Their argument now is they have more cement than the Gambia can consume in 3-4 months. I had Mr. Haidara on the program. Their problem is getting the cement off this super ship, which apparently cannot get into our channel.
That is completely false. I've heard Haidara made this statement. I've heard the Minister of Industry made this statement. It is not true. First of all, before you import, you have transshipment ports all over the world. It's always been the case that major vessels cannot dock in Gambia. So what happens is you go to a major port where your bigger ship can offload to smaller ship that can bring it to Gambia.
So they should have gone to Senegal, for instance, which is very close to us.
Let me tell you, every single day, the goods that you receive here, whether it's rice, whether it's a car, whether it's something from the US, they come on a ship that cannot dock in the Gambia every single day. What happens? In any region of the world, you have major transshipment points. You have some in Morocco, you have some in even Lagos that have been built. When I was in ADB, I worked on projects that built major ports across parts of the world. Gambia has never been able to have a major ship. Yet, some of these shirts we wear, they come on ships that cannot dock here. They go to a transshipment point where the goods are transferred to a smaller ship to come here. So the idea that we had a cement shortage because Jar Oil had ship on a major ship that couldn't dock is false. When the international shipping would not have occurred if transshipment points don't exist. That's the whole point of transshipment points. But more relevant to the problem at hand, as I said, if you are talking about a commodity that has to be available and you cannot produce locally, you need to make sure you have several producers. Don't favor one or the other. Let any Gambian who can enter that business legally, let them enter. Don't pick winners and losers. If we did that and we allow local cement dealers to buy cement directly from Senegal, even if it were the case that Ja Oil had a ship that couldn't dock, you would have had hundreds of suppliers who would have been able to bring their supply of cement as they used to. As of even last week, there were truckloads, lorries full of cement waiting at Keraib to cross.
So what's the problem with crossing?
Because the government put a punitive duty. It was a duty of $30 per bag. They went to
$30.
$30 per bag to $180 per bag, to such that whatever, if they bring it now, it will be so high that they wouldn't be able to sell it.
Have they given an indicative price of what paying this quote-unquote exorbitant tariff would mean on the retail price for cement? Because only then would we know that, whether these arguments hold water or not. If they're buying cement, for instance, if the suggestion is to be believed, if cement is selling at $250 per bag in Senegal, and you bring it to the border and pay another 180
on it,
on top of 250, that's only what? $430.
Yeah.
We can still sell for below $500.
No, but you have to also know, they are transporting it over land with trucks, so they are transporting some cost of workers and everything, cost of storage. So when you do all of that, you would be selling it at very high price. In fact, so Ja Oil, Salam, and Gasem now that are, that were bringing it, now they will be, basically be, you won't be able to sell it at any price that's competitive with them. But before that exorbitant import duty, those who were bringing cement from Senegal were actually bringing cement at a far lower cost.
Yeah, we need to know. We again, for the debate to be fully transparent,
yes,
we need to know, these petty traders, these small operators, how much they get the bag for in Senegal.
That's a
because if what they are getting it for in Senegal is comparatively, the same as what Ja Oil sells, ex factory, we would still be paying at 650.
Well, not quite.
Because there is this 180 waiting at the border, remember?
Yes, but the problem is who put the 180? The government put the 180 there.
Okay.
The point is, it wasn't there before. So why did they put it there?
Well, to protect, its quote-unquote local manufacturing.
Exactly, which doesn't exist. There is no local manufacturing. The point
because
is,
Senegal protects a lot of things. There's a lot of things you can't even, the smallest quantity of cross the border with coming from here.
Yes. There's nothing wrong with it.
For instance, sugar. Do they produce sugar in Senegal?
Listen, that is a policy for Senegal to do. I wouldn't defend that, and really that's up to the Senegalese authorities to determine. But I'm not against protecting local industry. If Ja Oil were really manufacturing cement and they needed to be protected, I can see the case for it. In such a scenario, I can see it.
But you feel that, they are just importing like these other small players, and they've been given the possibility of just blocking out all these other players.
Yeah, and they're actually importing from Senegal, from the same area. But now they are bringing it in trucks in powder form, and the government now is because they are not putting it in bags. This is why the whole thing is completely dishonest. Because when they block the small scale traders from bringing it, because remember the duty is not on cement per se from Senegal, it's on bagged cement that is bagged. So a small scale trader doesn't have those cement carrying specialized trucks. They have to bag it and put it in a truck. Ja Oil has these specialized cement carriers. So when that one is crossing, they don't pay the duty. And they are getting cement from the same location. So where is the argument that you are protecting industry when that very company is importing cement from the same place? Every day, I'm just coming from Badibu. Every day I'm seeing the Ja Oil trucks passing. They don't get assessed that duty. It's only small-scale traders. But small-scale traders cannot use those things because they don't have a bagging facility. So when they are buying cement, they must buy bagged cement.
Okay.
So I don't know how much these small-scale traders are buying the ideas. But the point is, we don't need to know. I don't need to know. The government doesn't need to know. The beauty of competition is that if I were in competition with you and we are buying cement from Senegal.
Thank God we are not in competition.
But suppose, for the sake of argument, we are in competition. If I were to go and buy it and sell it at, let's say, 275, when it can be sold at 250, you would have an opportunity, an opening here to go and sell it from the same, buy it from the same location, sell it at 260. I'll be forced to come if I don't want to lose. I'm forced to lower my price. I don't want to lose market share.
We saw that in the GSM sector.
Exactly. So, which is why competition, the government should allow as many people to come in. You don't have to bother that market decision, that market buying price. You don't have to know all of that. The market will solve it for you. But when you shut down a lot of businesses, that competition to keep the price down is no longer there. So, which is why the government, all they need to do is allow competition. We are not saying don't give any preferential treatment. Just allow other Gambians, other entrepreneurs who are small businessmen, let them go and buy this. At the end of the day, the beneficiaries will be the average Gambians who are trying to buy cement, build their houses, make sure that they have a solid structure to live under. That's all.
Okay. All right. So much for the cement. Let's come to the energy.
Yes.
And there's a particular loan, that is causing a lot of debate out there. Mm-hmm. Has it been paid? Has it not been paid? Let's talk about what we invest in energy and what we are getting in return, whether, they are commensurate as the economist. Does it make sense? I mean, the cost of energy to the Gambian taxpayer.
You mean to the average person?
The average person, yes.
No, we have one of the most expensive electricity bills to the end user in Africa. It's been the case for years. Even when I was at ADB, when we do comparison, we have one of the most expensive, which is quite unfortunate because we have also one of the highest blackout rates and the most one of the most unreliable energy in the whole sub-region. So it makes no sense currently what is happening right now. It would have been bearable if we were paying more and having reliable supply. But right now, I can tell you we have, last time I checked the statistics, in terms of the most expensive energies, we are among the top 3 in all of Africa. Yeah. So the other, the issue is, why are we in this situation? Mm-hmm. Since this government came to power, what power plants have they built when they are in a position to have built enough power plants? Going to the issue of, I've told people this issue of this loan to our areas car power is actually a bit of a distraction. The actual disaster was the contract with car powership for 7 years.
What was disastrous about that? A lot of people would argue that car powership helped stabilize power supply somehow.
And maybe they stabilize it. Maybe you would have had a far worse situation. But let me tell you this. A power purchase agreement that a utility would have with a national utility would have with a power producer, like a car powership. Normally, when you have a power purchase agreement, which is the power purchase agreement is like an agreement you have to buy electricity over it's a long-term contract. Yeah. In the case of car powership, we've had a series of short-term contracts, basically for 7 years. What we paid on an annual basis is the equivalent of the power plant on that ship. So we were paying over $30 million US dollars per year to car power ship. But the whole power plant on that ship that was docked in Banjul was 30 megawatts. So in other words, just to give a bit of a background to the listeners, usually when you are building a power plant, 1 megawatt costs about 1 million. So if you want like a 100 megawatt power plant, the cost is about $100 million. The power plant on the ship for car power ship was 30 megawatts. So the cost of that power plant is 30 million. That's what we were paying them every single year for 7 years. Over a 7-year period, the Gambia government spent over $200 million US dollars to car power ship. That's over $12 billion here. What we spent on that to car power ship over that 7-year period could have built a 200 megawatt power plant, Let me put that in context. That amount, Gambia, the total number of households we have in the Gambia is less than 300,000. A 200 megawatt power plant, given our average energy consumption in the Gambia, could supply close to 400,000 households. In other words, the power plant we could have built with the money we gave Car Powership, we could supply every single household and business in the Gambia with electricity and even have some left to export.
To send to Guinea-Bissau or to Mauritania.
Yes, or Senegal.
Or whoever wants
or
it.
Even Senegal.
Yeah, sure, absolutely.
Yeah, and this would be a modern power plant where the cost of production would be low, which means also today Gambians would have been paying close to half of the electricity rate that we are paying. This is the real scandal. The fact that such an agreement was allowed to happen. Because this money that we have been paying Car Powership, we were taking it from the budget and we were taking loans. In fact, last year's budget, there was 1.5 billion added there just to go and pay Car Powership. So the idea that we may have an area, a few million, but that's a tiny fraction.
Okay.
That's less than 5% of what we paid them that we've lost.
So this money that, we are all haggling about,
it's a side show.
Car Powership, or is it the Central Bank of the Gambia? Is it reporting opacity and all of that? You're saying that's a distraction.
No, yeah, it's a sideshow. The real scandal is that and to make it worse, the people who signed this and who were they've all been promoted, from managing directors of NAWEC now to the Ministry of Energy. In other words, people who have been responsible for this scandalous agreement are now actually in charge of ministries. So in other words, you have a government that rewards incompetence, rather than people facing consequences for it. So a country that has been able to I can understand if you have that in an emergency situation, like you said. Mm-hmm. You have an emergency situation. You try to stabilize power.
What we were told originally, because I was there for the signing ceremony, I was present, and we were told that this was only for a 2-year period. It was a stopgap measure, or let me just say, it was meant to be stopgap.
Exactly.
After 2 years, we say farewell to Car Powership and continue building, our own, local production capacity.
So, but what happened? During that whole time, was a power plant built here? No. We have this tiny solar plant being built in Jambur, but that's tiny compared to our energy need. In fact, right now, the generation capacity in the Gambia currently is less than what we had during Jammeh's time.
Oh, wow, that's a shame.
So we've been importing power, 50 megawatts from Senegal, 30 megawatts from Car Powership. So, and we have a total generation capacity of less than 100 megawatts when we had close to 100 megawatts during Jammeh's time. So when you have a situation like that, you have a country, you have a government that is incapable of solving the energy situation.
Mm-hmm. So what can we learn from other African countries that have managed similar challenges more efficiently, more effectively?
Just look at our neighbor, Senegal. One of the projects I worked on in the ADB before I left was a major energy project called Malikunda. If you are driving to Dakar, just after Mbour, you will see a power plant on the side of the road in a village called Malikunda. It's a combined power plant there. That is, this is an example of things Senegal has done rightly. It invested in energy production. If you are going to have energy security in your country, you need, first of all, you need to produce the energy so that you can supply. So in the Gambia, we are doing the opposite. I know Dr. Cisse has been here a lot recently talking about...
He will be here in less than 24 hours time.
Yes. He said, for instance, he has said, we have very high access rate. Our access electricity is high. Let me clarify one thing. That number now is meaningless, energy access rate. You have to understand what it means. If you construct a house and NAWEC goes and connect the house to the grid, even if you have electricity only 1 day out of the year, you are counted as you have access to electricity. So currently across the whole country, and I've been going around the country meeting people, you have villages and hamlets that are all getting connected with electricity. But where is the power coming that will supply them?
So they are connected, but they are not getting power. Is that what you're suggesting?
And they will not get power because the generation will not be there. It's all a political ploy, obviously. Maybe they'll bring another car power ship just before the election. And then after the election, the ship will sail away. But what I can tell you is, let me give another analogy. Suppose you want to supply all of Kotu with water. And then you have one small borehole. But then you connect every household, you put a pipe in there. If one small borehole, if everyone opens their tap, will they get water? No, that's the situation we have. The government, the country doesn't have any investment in energy generation. Yet you are connecting every village, every place, you're putting electricity there.
They're aiming for 90% coverage, universal coverage by the 31st of December.
Like I said, they will get the statistics, they likely get it, but then it will be meaningless because the way access is defined is if a village or a compound is connected to electricity, even if they get power, 1 hour throughout the whole year, on the statistics, it will appear as access. It's a joke they are trying to play on the whole economy. So people should know this. If you are going to do that, sequencing matters. The first thing you need to do is invest in power plant. That $200 million or 12 billion that has been paid to Car Power for a 7-year period, you could have had a loan, built a power plant, and today, even if you said you have 100% next year, people will believe you because the generation is there. Likewise, the analogy I was given, if you drill several boreholes here, up to 10, and then they are high capacity boreholes, nobody will doubt you if you said you are going to supply every household with water.
Okay.
So the problem here is Dr. Cisse is just talking empty air here. Basically, maybe he doesn't understand the energy sector. But for those who understand it, there is no chance of this government meaningfully supplying 90% of Gambians with energy. Where are they going to get it? We are already in areas to Senegal. Several months we haven't paid. Car power ship has gone. As far as I know, there is no power plant under construction. The OMVG interconnection is going to provide no more than 15 megawatts. Where is the energy going to come from? Yes, you're going to get them connected to the grid. Maybe they'll get 1 day of energy. At the end of the day, Dr. Cisse can still go and enjoy in his house and say that they have provided electricity to 90%. But I can tell you the average Gambian will not have meaningful access to energy, not close to 90%. It is just a political ploy.
You're saying to me, hold on to your generator, or better still,
solar panel.
Install solar panels. So she just read my mind there. Let's close out this segment on what needs to be done to build our agricultural sector up.
This question, I don't think more important than this. Agriculture, the first thing is we need to invest in it so that we bring our production and productivity up. And the most important one we have to start with is the infrastructural aspect of it, which is irrigation. We've been blessed with a river that runs through the whole length of the country. Half of it is fresh water throughout. And this is the area where we have arable land for our most important staple crop, which is rice. Currently, we consume per capita basis, about over 100 kg per person per year. 90% of that is imported. When we can actually export rice, the calculation can be easily shown where currently the amount of land that we are, based on the amount of land we are using, if we have Senegal's level of productivity, we would currently ask, without in fact, increasing the amount of land to rice, we could currently produce 75% of the rice we consume. Why is it that Senegal has such a high productivity? Because they made investment in irrigation. I've been lucky enough when I was at ADB, I've been involved in projects that have invested in rice irrigation on River Senegal. And this is the thing we need to do. It's not only in rice. We have all sort of subsectors in agriculture. I can give you another example. We have women horticultural gardens here.
Yes.
I actually, one time I went around the country to actually tabulate which ones are operating. About a few years back, 4 years ago, I counted about 150. Those 150, if you go to those gardens and meet with the women and sit down, they'll tell you the problems they face. Seed is a problem, good fence is a problem, irrigation boreholes are a problem. Virtually none of them have cold storage, and they have transportation problems, and they have marketing problems. But when you sit down and calculate the cost that you need to bring them to level of productivity that Senegal has in making sure that they can produce the quantity that's needed at the right level of productivity, there is preservation so that there is no post-harvest losses, there can be processing or export. The total amount of investment is not even more than 15 million US dollars. That is for every vegetable garden in the country. So the investments that are needed in the various subsectors, whether you are talking about livestock, horticulture, agriculture like rice, these things are things that can be done. These are things that we have budget for. These are things we have received financing for from development partners. It's a question of allocating the resources, executing the projects as they are meant to be executed. When that is done, agriculture here will be the launching pad for economic rejuvenation. See, the point about agriculture, when we talk about it, it's not just the things that it can affect directly, like food security. But when you address problems in agriculture, so right now, our second biggest import item is rice. If you produce rice locally, what's going to happen? Your trade deficit will fall. You might even export it.
You will need to be, using the dalasi to buy the dollar.
Exactly. So when
the process, you'll be strengthening the dalasi now.
Exactly. But also what it will do is that it will lower the price of rice. It will increase affordability. But what it does also is that you'll have to have a local industry for rice processing. The same thing for other crops. And when you go into agro-processing, this is the stepping stone into industrialization. When you have industrialization, this is when you have economic transformation. Right now, we basically have an economy that's just primary production and services. We don't have this important segment called industrialization. So there's no economic transformation here. But you cannot just jump into industrialization. First, you need to increase your agricultural production. Those intermediate goods that you need to process.
And to get there, you need the infrastructure in the place in the first place.
Which is irrigation. Now, other countries will struggle with water. We don't have that excuse. We have River Gambia.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So it's the investment in agricultural infrastructure is what is needed to jumpstart. But of course, everything has to start with having the right leadership, not only in the State House, but also in that sector, in the ministry. And currently, that's not the case.